I have some advanced grammar for you that is going to blow your mind. And what this really is all about is just trying to fine-tune your English fluency. Because some of this grammar, it's a little tricky, it's a little confusing, but that's what I want to do. That's what I'm here for. And if you are someone that would like to access these lesson notes right here, just click on the link down below, join my community, or if you've already a part of it, then check your inbox. I have sent them to you. So this is a quiz lesson. This is how I make them more interactive. And what I'd like you to do is just, choose the sentence that is grammatically correct. Now, I told you that some of this is a little tricky, so let's go through these. And what do you think? Right now, it's just multiple choice. A, she suggested me to take the train. B, she suggested that I take the train. Or C, I can't even speak today. She suggested that I took the train. It's a little bit of a tongue twister if I wanted to try to say it very quickly. So just looking at these three sentences, which do you think is correct? In this case, there is only one answer. There's only one correct answer. And just looking in the chat, you guys, yes, rocked it. B is the correct answer. She suggested that I take the train. Now, that is optional. I could just say she suggested I take the train. A lot of times I'll hear people say A, and they'll wanted to say suggested someone to do something. So this, keep in mind when we're talking about suggest and recommend. When you're giving advice to someone, you're going to follow it with that clause plus the subject plus the base verb. Here are some other examples just to, give you a little more context. I suggest that you wake up early, or we recommend you dress appropriately. She suggested I get more exercise, and I recommend that you hit the like button. Of course, that is something that I always recommend. So if you got this correct, you can let me know by hitting that like button. Now, to give you a little more information when talking about giving advice, because that's not the only pattern that you can use, is the suggest or recommend plus that, plus the subject, plus the base verb. There are other patterns that you can use. For example, you could use suggest or recommend plus a gerund, which is the verb form with an ing. He recommended arriving on time. You could also use suggest or recommend followed by a noun. She suggested the restaurant nearby. So there are different ways that you can go about this. Just something that I want you to keep in mind. So the next one, and you can let me know what you think. Here is your question. What do you think? Write your answers in the comments, in the chat. I just want to hear from you. So it's high time you your homework. Now, there is an expression in there that I really want to highlight, and we're going to talk about it, even though there's more than one way to say this. And I'll give you a little more information in just a moment. Are we going to complete this sentence with A, do, B, did, or C, have done? It's high time you your homework. Now, of course, many of you might not be students, so you don't have homework. Maybe this can kind of be like your homework, and we're doing it together because I want you to participate in these lessons. Write your answers in the comments, in the chat. I also didn't introduce myself. I'm sorry. If this is your first time here, my name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about helping you reach your fluency goals, and as I've already mentioned, this is about fine-tuning your grammar skills. So the phrase that I wanted to highlight is it's high time. And when we use that expression, we're going to use it with the past. It's high time you did your homework. So the correct answer is B, did. It's high time you did your homework. To give you an explanation, this is a phrase used to refer to something that should have been done in the past. You're basically saying, we should have done this already. And you just want to emphasize that, okay, we need to do this now. We need to make this change now. It's high time you did your homework. Really, this is a way of adding emphasis, if you want to say it's high time. More commonly used, and I've put this down there, more commonly used would be saying it's about time you did your homework. Or I could even just say it's time you did your homework. So using either of those phrases is more common. You could use it's high time if you just want to add emphasis. So here are more. I like dropping these subtle hints. It's high time you subscribe to the channel, and I'm just trying to add that emphasis. More commonly used, it's about time you subscribe to the channel. Again, I'm still using that past. Or it's time that you subscribe to the channel. All right, so again, keep in mind one is about adding emphasis, and the others I think are you're going to hear and probably use more often. So I wanted to talk about all three of those phrases, and yes, I would love it if you subscribe to the channel. That would be wonderful. I thought this was funny. I don't know why. I just came across it. It's high time. It's high time for pie time. Like you want to have some pie, and okay, you want to emphasize that, look, I should have had pie already, so we need to do this now. It's high time for pie time. What do you think? Which sentence is correct? By the time you arrive, I will finish the report. That's A. B. By the time you will arrive, I will have finished the report. B. And then C. By the time you arrive, I will have finished the report. There is only one sentence that is grammatically correct. This is, I think you see it, it's probably a little easier to follow and understand, but still, this is advanced grammar. This is advanced. That's how I feel, Lolly. It is high time for coffee, even though I'm drinking water right now, but I do need a little pick-me-up. So the answer, if you had put C, then that is correct. By the time you arrive, I will have finished my homework. So two things. This sentence consists of a dependent clause using by the time, and in this case, you're using the present simple. The main verb in our main clause, will have finished. We're talking about the future perfect. All right, it's not often that you're going to use the future perfect, which is why I said this is more advanced grammar. But we're going to, when you hear that expression or when you use that by the time, that automatically indicates the perfect tense. So really you're talking about either the past perfect or the future perfect. In this case, we're talking about two things in the future. By the time you arrive, we're talking about that happens in the future. So what happens right before that? Then we're using the future perfect. I will have done this thing. By the time you arrive, I will have finished the report. If I wanted to switch this around, give you an example in the past, by the time you arrived, I had already finished the report. It had already been done. I just added already in there, but I just wanted to show you that in this case, if we change it to the past, then we're going to use the past perfect. By the time you arrived, I had already finished the report. So 2 points that are either in the future and you use the future perfect, or 2 points that are both in the past and you're using the past perfect. And this is with that phrase by the time. And I think it is a phrase that is often used, a time expression that you do hear. So really just keep in mind the grammar when using that by the time with either the future perfect or the past perfect. I hope all of that makes sense. It's easy to grasp. What do you think? I prefer tea, coffee. Pretty simple sentence, pretty straightforward. But what word would you use, or words? Would you say A, to, B, over, C, instead of? So this is a little trickier because colloquially, you may hear people use, who knows? You may hear people say either. But in general, there is one answer that I would encourage you to use because I'm going to keep saying it. This is all about fine-tuning your grammar skills and making sure that you are speaking or writing accurately and avoiding simple mistakes. So excellent. Well done. Just give some shout out. Lolly, Teresa, nice. Angela, nice. So the correct answer is A. Now let me explain. When we're talking about prefer X to Y, this is the correct idiomatic form. However, and I don't know if that gives you much confidence when I use those howevers, because you may hear people use more than one preposition. I would encourage you to use two, but one of them was over. I prefer tea over coffee. You may hear somebody say that from time to time, colloquial and more casual, informal speech. But if you want to think about the correct idiomatic form, tea to coffee, chicken to beef, all right? I prefer Coke to Pepsi, all right? That's true. So to highlight what I'm saying as far as using either to or over, a resource that I have talked about regularly is Ngram Viewer. If you are ever in a situation in which you're like, okay, I have these two phrases, which one's more commonly used? And you can put that into Ngram Viewer. I just put in that prefer tea to coffee, or prefer tea over coffee, and then prefer tea instead of coffee. As you can see, the instead of it doesn't even show up on the graph, but you hear prefer tea to coffee. This is the one that you're going to come across most, and you actually do. You can see prefer tea over coffee. It does appear on the chart. So just something to keep in mind. But once again, when talking about this form, I would encourage you to say prefer X to Y. All right. Let's look at the next one. Here we go. Jao, new subscriber from Brazil. Good to see you. Nice. Thanks for being a part of our member community. I love it. This is, I don't think it's tricky, but there is something that I really want to hammer home when it comes to this question. I really want to just drive the point, make sure that you understand this. So which sentence is correct? I think you all are going to know this. He stopped to smoke because he was coughing. Or he stopped smoking because he was coughing. There is something important that I want to say about the sentences, specifically when talking about the verb stop. Because just looking at it, well done, excellent, you guys. I see all these answers, beep, 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 perfect. So the correct answer is yes, he stopped smoking because he was coughing. Now that dependent clause, because he was coughing, that gives us the information we need so that we know, all right, B is the correct answer because this person stopped. They do not smoke anymore. So when you use stop smoking, it means you quit. If I were to use stop to smoke, it means that I'm stopping, I'm pausing to do this activity, which if we're talking about like coughing, that sounds really weird and awkward, like somebody's coughing, I better stop and smoke a cigarette. I'm sure there are people out there that may do that. I don't know. But in this case, the correct sentence, he stopped smoking because he was coughing. Now, one thing that you may find not weird, but interesting when it comes to English grammar, we have the verb stop. Now, most verbs, you're either going to follow it with a gerund or the infinitive. However, there's that however. There are some verbs that you can follow with either a gerund or infinitive. The verb stop is one of them. Now, within that group of verbs that you can either follow with a gerund or an infinitive, there is another group, a smaller group, that depending on whether or not you use the gerund or infinitive, it changes the meaning. Sometimes whether you use like you could follow like with either one. I like playing tennis. I like to play tennis. They mean the same thing. I could follow the verb like with either a gerund or infinitive. If I use stop, and then depending on which one I follow it with, it actually changes the meaning. Like in the example I just gave you. I've taken this is from the British Council, and I wanted to share this with you because it highlights the verbs in which the meaning is going to change. You can see up here, I'm blocking my face now, stop, try to do something versus try doing something, and then remember and forget. So let me we've talked about stop as far as you stop to do something versus, and you actually pause to do it versus stop doing it and then you quit it. Try, if you're going to follow that with the gerund. And I know this is difficult to see, but again, you can access the lesson notes, but I'll tell you what the sentence. It says, have you tried turning off the on and off and on the computer? So try doing something is really like talking about experimenting doing it. Like try doing this thing. Like you would make a suggestion. Well, have you tried doing this? Or have you tried doing that? So you're experimenting, whereas you try to do something, it means that you're doing something that's difficult. And I tried to learn Japanese, but it was just too difficult for me, but I tried to do it. So that's a distinction. Remember and forget. When you remember doing something, think about like your memory. I remember walking in the park this last weekend. That's what we did. It was very lovely. If you remember to do something, then you're basically remember, this is something I need to do. Or I did not remember to lock the door. And you're thinking about that instance, and you remember to do something. You're recalling information. Forget functions the same way as remember. You forget doing something versus forget to do something. So I really wanted to highlight those 4 verbs. Stop, try, remember, forget. Depending on whether you follow it with a gerund or infinitive, it's going to change the meaning. How about this one? This is more advanced grammar, and I'll tell you why, because it's not the most commonly used form, and that's okay. It's always good to get a little bit of variety. Not until the last moment that the event was canceled. Which phrase are we going to use to complete this sentence? Did we learn? Had we learned? Or do we learn? And I don't know why I'm just doing this thing. All right, I'm going to stop. Okay? Not until the last moment that the event was canceled. So the grammar concept that I wanted to talk, or that I want to talk about and share with you, is this idea of inversion. So the correct answer, I'm not seeing too many responses. Maybe people are thinking this one through. Don't be shy. Even if you get it incorrect, it's no big deal. It's perfectly fine. Not until the last moment did we learn that the event was canceled. So let me tell you, inversion, we're going to use this after negative adverbials, like not until the last moment, not until. This means that you're going to reverse the normal subject-verb order in the sentence. So I'm not going to say we did learn. I'm going to switch it around, almost like you're forming a question. Did we learn? And you're really going to use inversion when you want to add emphasis. You're trying to be persuasive, and therefore you may come across it, or you may hear people use it more often. They're giving a speech or a presentation and they really want to emphasize something. It is a little more formal, and you just use this for effect. Not until the last moment did we learn that the event was canceled. So something to keep in mind. What do you think? Choose the grammatically correct sentence. This is another one that I think is, well, I don't want to say whether it's easy or difficult, but this can certainly be confusing. So which sentence is correct? He is used to work late at night. He used to working late at night. He is used to working late at night. I want you to tell me which of those sentences is correct. And there is only one. There is only one answer to choose. So I hope, I wasn't seeing much, and then all of these answers, boom, boom, came out at once. So I think as you're looking at this, you can probably see that, okay, in this case, C is the correct answer. Excellent, Katerina, Julia, Caio, good to see you. Rafaela, Lali, nice. Oh, so many people here today. Excellent. He is used to working late at night. So there are several things that I want to point out when it comes to this. So he's used to working late at night. When we have used to, followed by a noun or a gerund, which is like in our sentence, he's used to working, the meaning of used to, it is an adjective. It's an adjective phrase, and it means you're accustomed to something. You're familiar with this. Like, oh, I'm not used to eating late at night. That's true. I have dinners a little bit earlier in the evening. In our sentence, he is used to working late at night. That is something, yeah, I am used to. And basically, you're saying you're accustomed. You're familiar with this. Used to plus a noun or a gerund. If we use used to plus a base verb, this is really a verb. You could say people might say it's a verb or a modal verb. That really doesn't matter. The meaning changes though. And in this case, when you use it, used to plus the base verb, this is used to talk about a past habit that you no longer do. I used to go dancing on the weekends. I did it in the past, but I don't do it any longer. I used to do this thing, and I'm using used to plus the base verb. So just keep in mind that used to can be two different parts of speech. It can be an adjective or it can be a modal verb. And depending on which one you use, the meaning is different. So in our sentence right here, I'm using it as an adjective. He is used to working late at night. To give you a little more context, I like to share these funny little memes with you from time to time. So we're talking about used to plus the noun or gerund. You're accustomed to or familiar with something. When everything is going wrong in your life, but you're used to it. So I'm using used to it. I'm following it with a noun, the pronoun it. And this is, the bar is on fire, and from the Family Guy, and he's still just sitting, hey, I'm used to it. All right, everything's going wrong, but I'm used to it. So we're using it as an adjective. If I want to give you an example, another example, using it as a modal verb. So we're talking about a past action here. It's no longer true. I used to be a people person, but people ruined that for me. I thought this was funny when I read it, saying, oh, yeah, I used to be a people person. I love people. And then you start talking and engaging with them, like, okay, yeah. Maybe I don't like people as much as I thought. And people ruined that for me. But once again, I'm using it as a verb. I used to be, following it with the base verb, be. What do you think? Here's the next one. Hope you guys thought those were funny or entertaining. It's always good to, throw a laugh in there every now and then. The man, along with his sons, planning the event. Just giving you, there's two choices. I want you to use the verb to be, but how are you going to conjugate it? Are you going to use are or is? The man, along with his sons, planning the event. I'm trying to actually read this in a way that makes it a little easier and perhaps gives it away, is making that longer pause when it comes to those commas. So we're talking about a group of people. Now, when you think about a group of people, you might say, oh, like they are, and that's good, but that's not the case, because really the main subject of the sentence is the man. That is going to be our subject-verb agreement. The man, along with his sons, is planning the event. It's going to, maybe it sounds a little awkward because right after sons, then we're using that verb to be is. But really what happens, I've already said, is that the man, this is the main subject, and the verb must agree with it. The phrase, along with his sons, this is a non-restrictive clause. It's really just providing additional information. And therefore, it can be omitted. And that's why I was making that longer pause. I really could just say, look, the man is planning the event. All right? And that tells you that this man is planning the event. If I wanted to give you a little extra information, I can use that clause. Well, the man, along with his sons, is planning the event. So just keep that in mind. And hopefully, if you're able to see it, I know when you see things in writing, it makes it a little easier because you saw those commas in there. That should tell you that we're talking about a non-restrictive clause, and you could throw that information out And therefore, the subject-verb agreement is going to be the man and the verb to be. This is the first time I sushi. What are you going to complete this sentence with? Have eaten, had eaten, or am eating? There is a phrase that I really wanted to highlight with this. This is the first time I sushi. Let me know. Write your answers in the comments in the chat. I just want you to participate so that you can fine-tune your grammar skills. That's what it's all about right now. So this is the first time you could really, when you use well, that's the phrase that I want to talk about. I'll just go ahead and give it away. The first time. And when you're saying something, well, this is the first time and then you fill in the blank. There are so many different things that you could say. In this case, you're going to complete the sentence with have eaten. This is the first time I have eaten sushi. So really, the present perfect tense is used with this phrase, the first time, when you're describing some new experience or something that just happened. Now, you're not always going to use the first time in that context. But whenever you're starting out the sentence like, oh, this is the first time I have done something, that is more of a fixed phrase, and it's something that people will say from time to time. You're emphasizing the novelty of this experience and really the relationship to the present. This is the first time. This is the first time I have taught a lesson in this room. And that's true. I'm at an Airbnb right now, so it's probably maybe just one or two more times, and then that'll be it. But I could say that. This is the first time I've taught a lesson in this room. And just to give you another example, again, dropping more of these subtle hints. If this is the first time you have seen one of my lessons, let me know by hitting the like button or any of those heart buttons in there. I know there are people in the chat. This may be your first time. Let me know. I see some of those hearts coming up. That's perfect. This is the first time you have participated in one of these lessons. Again, I'm using the present perfect. All right, I'd like to see a lot of new people joining and practicing their English skills. Excellent. Love it, love it, love it, love it. What do you think? She insisted that he present at the meeting. She insisted that he present at the meeting. Are you going to complete this sentence with the verb with A, be, or be is, or C was? Which we're talking about the verb to be. Are you going to use the base verb or is or was? She insisted that he present at the meeting. What do you think? Miguel, it's the second time. All right. That's perfect. Glad to have you back, Miguel. So there is okay. I don't want to give it away. So I want you to really think about the verb. She insisted. She insisted that he present at the meeting. So what the reason I want to highlight or emphasize that verb insist, because, well, the correct answer in this case, I know when you get a mix of responses, then I know, okay, this was maybe a little trickier, is A. She insisted that he be present at the meeting. So the verb insist can be followed by the subjunctive mood, but only when it expresses like a demand or some strong recommendation. I insist, like, I don't know why, again, I'm just using it, like, I insist that he go to the doctor, and I'm using the subjunctive mood. However, and let me throw that however, I know some people will be putting B and C in there. Colloquially, you will hear people use is or was. You may hear like, oh, she insisted that he was present at the meeting. So you will hear that from time to time. This is one of those instances in English where you have the subjunctive mood and say, okay, this is grammatically correct, but a lot of times people don't use it. It's like saying, if I were you, that's another time, the subjunctive mood, but you will hear people say like, look, if I was you, and you'll hear either one. So this is why it can be a little trickier, but when you see that verb insist and you're talking about a demand or a recommendation, you'd really use that subjunctive. She insisted that he be present at the meeting. He acts as if he, the boss. It kind of just, all right, never mind. How would you complete this sentence? With is, was, or were. He acts as if he, the boss. I knew it wrong. It's okay. It's okay. These are questions that people will make just simple mistakes. But with that last one, it is tricky because you'll hear a variety. So he acts as if he. I kind of just mentioned this when I talked. Oh, if I were you. So the correct answer is C. He acts as if he were the boss. We're talking about describing an unreal situation. So once again, like I just said, if I were you, it's the same thing. But you will, again, hear people say, oh, if I was you. But I would, in this case, I would encourage you to say, if I were you, always when talking about this situation, or he acts as if he were the boss, because the verb following as if, all right, it's often going to be that past subjunctive, usually were for all the subjects. So when it gets to that, when talking about the subjunctive, there are rules that you can follow. I would encourage you to follow them. If I were you, he acts as if he were the boss. She insisted that he be present at the meeting. But you may hear people break these rules from time to time. So hopefully that one was maybe a little easier. And this is another, I guess this is another, I don't want to say, never mind. I don't, let's just look at it. Choose the correct sentence. Which one is correct? Neither of the answers are correct. Neither of the answers were correct, or neither of the answers is correct. How would you, which one of these sentences would you choose as being the correct answer? Let me know. Write your answers in the comments, in the chat. Just want to kind of gauge where everyone's at. This is one of those questions because I've done these grammar lessons before, and you probably have noticed even with some of the previous ones that I do throw in things that are a fair bit of review when talking about the subjunctive mood or conditional sentences. Inversion is something we meant before, and using this as something else, neither. So the correct answer, I'm going to say, is C. Neither of the answers is correct. However, there's that however. All right, so let me just read this and then I'll get to the however. Neither is a singular pronoun. So because it is a singular pronoun, then you're just going to use a singular verb. Neither of the answers is correct. Now, however, and this is actually something that I've shown in a previous lesson. This is from the Britannica Dictionary, and it's talking about the usage of neither. So basically, what it's saying, I'll read it in case you're having trouble if it's too small. According to the rules of grammar, the pronoun neither is singular. It requires a singular verb. Neither is correct. And then they're using my however. All right, however, in informal writing or speech, a plural verb is common when neither is followed by of, like in our sentence that I just gave you. So they gave you something like neither of the answers is or are correct. You could use either one, or neither of them, no or knows, my friend. So technically speaking, again, I do want you to consider neither. This is a singular pronoun. But if I wanted to go back and look at those, you could use the singular is or are would work. So something to keep in mind when talking about neither or neither of something. So this is a bit tricky. Like many of these grammar questions, I tried to include some resources here to make it a little easier to understand. And all I could say is I just hope that your mind is blown right now. But really, what I really hope is that you learn something new. That you knew probably many or most of these, that's great. But as long as you learn just one new thing, I consider that to be a great success for the lesson today. So if you did enjoy the lesson and you learned something new, you can let me know. Let me know by hitting that like button. I really appreciate all of you being here today. I love seeing so many familiar faces, so many members joining, new members joining, and old members, Rafaela, Lali, Teresa. Great to see everyone. And thank you guys so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you very soon for another lesson in the near future. Just give some quick shout outs. Thank you to Kaio, Julia, Ahmed, Angela. Great to see everybody. Have a good one, and I will see you soon. Oh, Cinderella, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the donation. It does help make all of this possible. Just keeps us going, keeps it all going. So thank you guys very much. Have a good one, and I'm going to stop